It's a quote my parents told me growing up, and it just has still ring true my entire life. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. There's always going to be a situation where maybe you're not the most experienced, or you're not, the standout favorite, or whatever it is. Like, you have some sort of perceived drawback, and that's just life. That's how it's going to be. So the question is, how else do you show up? Like, how can you show up? And at the very least, if you can show up through your work ethic, that's one of the best ways to just let people know you're there and you're willing to work. And I think only success can come from that.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome to 50 Chairs. So excited to have you today. Um, we were just talking about just kind of the journey of 50 Chairs and kind of the purpose of this podcast, but super excited to tell your story. There's so many pieces from starting a cupcake company to being Miss Nevada to running real estate, going into law. I mean, you name it. I think you've done all of it, but excited to explore that today. And thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
One of the things that you and I had talked about early on was this idea of purpose and kind of finding purpose in your life. So before we go through like the journey, just catch me up, catch the audience up on, where's that purpose at for you? What have you found purpose in? And what are you doing now?
Well, I've always been, for better or for worse, money driven. So, when I was in law school, I was super excited to get out and start working my big girl job, because I was like, I'm going to get a 6-figure job, right? I'm going to out the gate. I'm going to get a 6-figure job, and I'm going to be off to the races. I'm going to be this like fabulous corporate lawyer. And I had these dreams of like Sex in the City, corporate
Yeah.
lawyer. I was like, that's me. And, I appreciate that, I've always just been highly ambitious. And I think that just comes from um, having amazing parents who instilled not only goals, and encouraged me to dream big, but they were also just very, very big on building up confidence. They were like, you can do anything. They're like, you have the ability to do anything as long as you apply yourself and work hard. If you work hard, you will be able to achieve anything that you want.
Wow. Now, where did that come from your parents? I mean, I feel like every parent probably wants to instill that in their child. So maybe some words of advice. I have kids, so yeah. How did they make you feel that way?
It's just, as early as I can remember. So my parents, my mom is a kind of traditional Korean tiger mom. And my dad was Air Force and then worked for the DoD while I was growing up. Uh, had a very kind of traditional nuclear family upbringing, family dinners every night, very strong sense of community, strong sense of family. And I think that 100% added to just my level of self-confidence. And like I said, as early as I can remember, my parents just having very high expectations of me, right? The idea of straight A's in an Asian household, right? And there's a joke, right? And there's a stereotype behind it. But I think really what it exemplifies is that as parents, they're holding me to a high standard, not because they wanted to be mean to me or be hard on me, because they knew that I was capable, and they made sure they communicated that, right? They said, we're not, telling you have to get straight A's because we're trying to be mean to you. We're telling you this because we know that you're 100% capable of that. So you achieving anything less than that means that you're not applying yourself, and there's just no room for that. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, that sounds like could be a lot of work growing up as a kid. Did you appreciate that as a kid? Or is that kind of you've come to appreciate that as you've realized like, hey, they were right. They were right to push me.
Um, when I was a kid, I think I didn't have enough time or bandwidth to analyze it all. I was extremely busy in the sense that not only was there school, which was the main priority, but I was in dance lessons and piano lessons and music competition. Um, I was just extremely busy. We were involved in our church on the weekends. So my whole week, 7 days, was busy. And
Mm,
I think there's value in that. There's value.
mm,
And so I didn't have time to kind of analyze, like, I guess, my life. It was just like we're on the go and we're making things
yeah.
happen. When I was in high school, I mean, I'm old enough that high school was still the percentages, right? It
Yeah.
was like 90 to 100 is an A.
Yeah.
And so it would show on the report card. I remember there's a semester I got like 90%, like across the board,
Yeah.
90% in every single class. And my mom was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I got A's." And she was like, she saw immediately through what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you what got upset. And she was like, "What is this?" She was like, "You're just gonna like skate through?" She was like, "Why don't you pick a subject and get 100% in it and like come back to me with that?" Like she was so upset. And I was just like, "Lady, you're crazy," like teenager, right? And like, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate, again, just being held to a high standard, being given that confidence from a very young age that I am capable. And as long as I
Mm.
apply myself and show up, that I can accomplish anything. And I think it's continued to ring true.
Well, I mean, obviously the list of accomplishments are lengthy. So obviously all the pushing has paid off. Um, but when you were in high school and when you were kind of going through that, like, were you clear on what you wanted, or was that like more of a journey of discovery, or did you have like a clear path, like this is what I'm doing, this is the path I'm on?
Junior high, my parents had a joke. So it was either law school or medical school. And it was um, be a doctor, take care of my parents in their old age, or be a lawyer to sue the SOB that doesn't. And so that was like the running joke. Um, I knew what my strengths were, and it's definitely reading and writing. And I was a voracious reader growing up and still am. So knowing that reading and writing was an innate skill set for me and something that came really easily for me, I just naturally gravitated towards law school. And when I realized that a political science degree in college had zero math requirement, I
Mm,
was like, I'm in, count me in. Um, and so that was why I chose the path. I will say,
yeah.
Legally Blonde came out in 2001, and it came
Yes.
out when I was in high school, and it like solidified my choice to go to law school. I was like, I'm definitely going to law school, obviously. So
uh,
yeah, what a time to be alive. It was great.
we just recently rewatched that video, and the application video that she sent in was, I
Right?
think there's a Legally Blonde 2 coming out, isn't there? I think there's a remake.
Is there? Oh my gosh.
I
That's
think so.
great. That's great.
Uh, that's amazing. Yeah. So I'm assuming you went on and you applied. You went in as an undergrad, and then eventually applied to law school and went
Yeah,
down that path.
exactly. So I went to undergrad and then at the University of Arizona, and I knew I wanted to go out of state for law school. So I stayed in state for college. And at the time it was called the Millennial Scholarship. So if you had a 4.0 or above at an Arizona public high school, you could go to an in-state school tuition free for college. No brainer, right? So
Yeah.
went to college debt free. And then my parents made me a deal. They said, you can pick anywhere you want to go for grad school. We will pay for your living cost if you can get a tuition scholarship.
Mm.
Um, so I went to Miami. My dad was like, "You're not moving to Miami.
Yeah.
We're not doing this." I'd never even
But
been.
dad.
Yeah, I know. Dad. Yeah. So I'd never been to Miami before I moved there. I came from this like small, teeny tiny little town in rural Arizona, and then, Tucson for college, but Tucson was like the big city.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I moved to South Beach.
Wow.
It's the best.
Yeah.
This is 2006. This is the Miami Heat had just won their first championship.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
I lived
Yeah.
in a high-rise building right on the water. D Wade and Shaq had condos there. I mean, it was a wild time. It was a time to be alive.
Yeah, you're like, this is the right choice for me at this moment in my life, right?
It was the
I
most
live in Tampa, so
yeah.
yeah, so Miami, I can see how that would be a ton of fun at that stage of life. So, okay, so you go to University of Miami, and I mean, from high school to law school, you're still passionate about this idea of like, yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer, and that's my path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all in. And my dad was a government military guy, literally his entire career. Like I said, Air Force and then the DoD. So I remember he got a certificate for like 42 years of service to the United States government. And we were just like, I was like, is this something to be proud of? I was just like, Dad, this is kind of outrageous. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously amazing. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. So my point with that though is that he was a W-2 guy his entire life, right? His
Mm,
entire working
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And my mom was a stay-at-home mom with me until I was in 6th grade. And then she went and got a cosmetology license and actually to this day still owns a hair salon. So they got into a little bit of real estate investing, but they weren't like entrepreneurial family or anything like that. And so the idea of just, going to school and then getting out and getting a good job, that was the goal. That was
Mm,
what I was taught. That was what I saw. And so that was what the plan was, and that's what I did. Um, and then
yeah.
it's one of those things where once you do that, right, and you like check the boxes, then you're like, now what do I do? And then you're like, check the box, and you're like, okay, like
Okay.
now what?
I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because in the work that I do for Bloom, the world of work is changing so quickly. And so, jobs that existed for years are now gone. And so very interesting, that the idea of like working for a place for 42 years. So my dad was also retired after 32 years in the army. I think that idea is just a foreign concept to most people now. Um, but there is something to this like stick to itiveness, seeing things through. And you said something about like, hey, I've been able to reuse a lot of my skill sets in lots of different places. So that's interesting to me because you have done lots of different things, but I'm sure there's a pattern in what you've been able to kind of learn from those things and then apply them to many places. Um, so did you ever go and practice law?
I did.
Okay.
It was here in Nevada, and I worked for a firm that did business bankruptcy and business litigation. So fast forward, I finished school. It is literally the worst job market because of a recession, right? So it's 2010. That in Nevada and in Vegas in particular, if you wanted to get your feet wet and like get into a courtroom, business bankruptcy and business litigation was booming off the charts, right? Everybody was
Yeah.
filing BK, everyone was suing each other. It was the Wild West. It was the craziest time. And so I wanted to come back West Coast ish because my parents were still in Arizona. And I looked at LA, I looked at Phoenix, and I looked at Vegas. And obviously, I'd been to Vegas prior as a tourist. And I was like, I can't be in Vegas longer than like 3 days, right? Like 3 days is like the max. And then you like fly back home and like
Yeah.
you have a little tickle in your throat. Like you're like, I need to rest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Las Vegas, I was like, this place is so like there's just so much opportunity here. And at the
Mm,
time, especially, it was insanely dirt cheap. It was so cheap to live in Vegas. And so I was like, I'll just give it a try. I think that's a common tale. You'll meet people who have like lived here a long time. I lived here 15 years and their origin story is like, I just gave it a try. I'm going to try it for a year. Moved out here, started working. I just I learned so much so quickly because you're in it every day. You're just like
mm.
jumping right in. And so it was an incredible experience. I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to learn about business from that lens, from
Mm,
the back end, and like reverse engineering um, when something's already imploded,
mm, yeah.
right? And
Wow.
you get
Yeah.
smart people are coming into the office and they are in a bad spot. And you realize it's because they signed crazy personal guarantees on their lease spaces and they didn't have an operating agreement and they didn't have roles and responsibilities written out with their partner. And now 6 years later, they're suing each other because the communication's broken down and neither of them know what either one's supposed to be doing in the business in the first place. So
Wow.
there are so many like nuggets and lessons from people that you just keep meeting over and over and over. You start to see a pattern. So by the time 2012 rolls around, I started the bakery with my friend and co-founder then, Danielle, and I literally just took the lessons from the clients I was meeting of
Wow.
like what not to do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
don't like double negative, right? Like don't not have an operating agreement, like don't
Yeah.
not have a partnership agreement, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Clarify these things up front. Yeah, it's interesting. I'd never thought about bankruptcy as a learning experience, but I'm sure as an attorney helping people through this, you're like, I'm starting to see some trends here of why this might have happened. Yeah, what a great learning experience that must have been. I don't know if I would have thought of it as a learning experience, like going into that field, but yeah, absolutely. Like what's a better way to learn
It's
what didn't work?
Yeah, and it's a tool, right? So you realize that
Yeah.
quickly too, right? Personal BK is one thing, and that's, a lot of, let's say like unsecured debt, right? And the medical bills or credit card debt. But business BK, it's a tool. So whether they're going liquidation or they're going reorganization, right? You'll see it on the headlines. American Airlines files bankruptcy. You're like, wait, but they're still operating, right? They're doing a reorganization plan, and so they're squishing down all their debt and going on a payment plan, keeping the same operators in place, which you're like, how is that allowed? And they're still trucking, like it's really interesting. It's a very interesting tool that is used by businesses. And it takes bad moves to get there, in my
Yeah.
opinion, right? And so then that's the question is, what are those moves? What's the do not do list, and how do you learn from it?
Wow. Okay. So you went from kind of bankruptcy to this initial idea. Like where did it start? Where was the spark of like, I might want to go do this?
Yeah. So it came from Danielle, my co-founder. She and I were friends, catching up on the phone. At the time, she actually still lived in Miami. And we're like, hey, what have you been up to? And she told me about these alcohol cupcakes she had been making. And I was like, that's genius. I was like, you need to do that in Vegas. You need to sell that in Vegas. And
Yeah.
I made all the mistakes in the beginning, right? I'm like, move to Vegas. I'll bake roll it. In fact, I just bought a big house in Summerlin. Move into my house. Move into my house and let's start the company. Literally,
Yeah.
that's what happened. So she moves across the country and like, God bless her for taking the leap, right?
Yeah.
She moves across country, literally moves into my house. We start baking in my home kitchen and I still kept my day job.
So you're lawyering during the day and baking
Yes.
baking at night.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Baking, running deliveries, setting up events at night. And Danielle is like holding it down during the day, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And that goes on for 18 months. So I'm still working my full
Yeah.
time day job. We get the business off the ground, and literally not even 4 or 5 months into operations on the bakery side, um, we get covered by Fox News Business International. And it was on like the main like foxnews.com like page. Um, this video, and it like went viral. And so we started getting all these calls. And again, this is 2012. There's still like a domestic recession going on in
Yeah.
the country. Um, Domestic tourism to Las Vegas was down. It was up? International tourism, because the dollar was so weak at the time.
Mm.
So our cupcakes were getting purchased by every Chinese tourists, Australian tourists, people from the
Mm,
UK. I mean, everyone was visiting here because the dollar
yeah.
was weak. It was cheap to come and all the
Yeah.
rooms were cheap. And that was really what got us our start in the first
Wow.
year of business, was the fact that we had this premium product that catered to tourists that we started during a recession,
Yeah.
but there was still a market for it because of the location and because of international clientele.
Wow. Wow. How was it living with your co-founder? I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs have, they may have a co-founder. I have not met many that have lived with their co-founder for an extended period of time. How was that?
I
And
mean,
you guys were friends.
yes, and we lived together for like I think it was like 6 years or something. We lived together a long time. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
just as we could could get the business up and going. And um it's one of those things where you just don't know like what you don't know, right? So every first new thing, it just feels normal. Like you're just like, well, this is what we're doing, so it must
Yeah.
be fine. Um, and so it was great. I mean, I appreciated that in starting that business, it made me realize really quickly, wow, I can have my own company as long as I team up with an operations partner. And
Mm.
so that lesson became a business model for me that I have since replicated literally to this day across different industries.
So you were like, if you were going to describe the relationship between you and your co-founder, what was she doing and what were you doing, and were you guys explicit about that from day one, or was that something that kind of evolved with time?
We wrote out roles and responsibilities, and those got put into our partnership agreement. And we also made it clear that those roles and responsibilities could change over time and like with mutual agreement. But essentially, it was one, I was going to fund it. She was going to put in her sweat equity. And that's why during the day, I was working my day job, but I was funding it. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then nights and weekends, literally, I was helping her bake. I was helping run deliveries. I was helping set up events. So like every moment that I wasn't working at the firm, we were doing cupcake stuff. And it was also just really fun, right? Like we
Sounds
were
fun.
in our 20s. It's alcohol cupcakes. We thought it was like on brand to be drinking all the time. So you know what I mean? Like it was just so much fun. Like we got to be part of the best, most fun, coolest events, right? Like every major event in Vegas wanted alcohol cupcakes.
Yeah.
At the,
Yeah. Why wouldn't they, right? I mean,
again,
that's the best of both worlds.
yeah. Oh, it
That's
was the best.
I love it. So what happened to Sin City Cupcakes? Like, how long were you guys going, and then what happened?
So we grew it. We grew it really big. We had it for 11 years, and then we exited it. We sold it to a national bakery brand. Um, so yeah, we didn't start it to eventually build and sell it. We didn't even realize we wanted to sell it until I think it was like year 8 or 9 of operations. And I did this great clarifying exercise with a mentor of mine, Ken Matt in his office, and he rolled out um like butcher paper. And he was like, write down all your stuff, all your projects, all the stuff you have going on. And so I write down all the companies. I had like 6 companies, right? I write down all the companies. I write down all the nonprofit work I do, all the boards I sit on, all the project, all the stuff, right? So I write it all out. And he was like, circle the ones that make you money. And there's this whole right side of the page. There's no circles. I was like, oh. And then circle the ones that you could see yourself doing for the next 10 years. And then circle the ones where the work that you do, whatever it is you do with it, um, the work that you do feels like purposeful, meaningful, that you're like contributing. And that one exercise made me realize of all the companies with cupcakes, for example, it only had one circle around it, and it was that it made money. I
Mm.
couldn't see myself doing it for another 10 years. I didn't feel like I was contributing in a meaningful way, having been so removed, like, 8, 9 years in. I'd
Yeah.
already moved on to other endeavors. I was just, I'd pop in or whatever. I hadn't baked in, I don't know, 6 years maybe.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I was contributing in a
Mhm.
meaningful way. And like I said, my attention had already turned to other endeavors that I was more excited about. So that one exercise was really what got us thinking about, hey, both of us were like mentally checked out on it. And we were like, what if we sell it? What does that look like?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a, I think that's a hard moment for a lot of founders. Is, realizing that moment where that's a period of your life and maybe there's a new chapter that you need to go explore. Because I feel like a lot of people's identities get tied up in their company and what they do, and especially for founders, it feels very personal. So what a great job by your mentor. Is he one of many mentors in your life? I mean, I've had a few for sure over time. Has that been a important part of your kind of growth?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I met him through YPO. And I have to say, definitely like YPO in particular has been very helpful for me in relation to just personal growth, personal development. Um, it just, it, that the experience of being part of YPO and having the forum experience was like really what got me to kind of focus more on personal growth and development. Cause I think it's too easy to get focused on just like business growth.
Yeah.
And that's what like other things aren't working. And so
Mm.
it's just, yeah, I'm really grateful that I have my forum. Obviously I've met great people through YPO. Ken in particular is one of them. Yeah, it's a journey. It takes time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have the butcher paper. Sin City's got one circle on it, and there's a bunch of other stuff. So you exit Sin City, and what did you turn your attention to? Like, what was next? I mean, it sounds like you already had some things that you were working on.
I already had
Um,
simultaneously going again, partnering up with people was what I realized, right? So, um, I have partners in all the endeavors that I still have to this day. And mm, that's the only way that you can have multiple irons in the fire
yeah,
and still have them perform. Um, and so the real estate brokerage has been around since 2013, and the real estate business, of course, since 2013. The mailbox stores got started in 2018. uh, And of course, the venture capital fund, it's been 4 years now. So
wow,
it's been great.
yeah. Yeah. So the repeatability for you has really been find an operator that can partner with you, and you guys kind of have a division of roles and responsibilities. Um, and they will take the operations piece for you, so you can focus on multiple things at once. How did you know that was the model? Like, I think some people struggle with when they start something feeling like they have to do everything. They absolutely must do everything. They're the founder, they're the CEO. That's a very smart, I would say, way to approach life, because reality is you can't do it all, right? How did you come to that conclusion? How did you say, hey, this is what I'm really good at, and I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to find somebody else to do the other things that I'm maybe either don't want to or can't do or don't want to do?
Well, it just started as a simple logistics issue as far as with the bakery, right? Like I
Mm,
loved the idea. I didn't know how to bake when we first started the company, but I was like confident I could learn. But I was like, I still have a day job. I was like, and I'm definitely not quitting my job to start this. How are we going to work together on this? And I realized, okay, well, what can I bring to the table? And it's that I can bring the funding. In order for me to bring the funding, I still need to keep my job. So how do we divide up what needs to get done for the business?
yeah, love that. Love that. So started several companies. You're operating all at once. We'll talk about the veteran fund because I know that's an interesting story. But I see the sashes behind you. So between starting companies, there were some other things that were going on. So Miss Las Vegas, Miss Nevada, What was the what were you thinking? Like, hey, this is next. This is my next thing.
So, fall of 2013, my mom called me and she was like, "Are you competing for Miss Las Vegas?" And I was like, "Kind of busy. I just started a company. Like, we're, you know, we're like doing stuff." And she was like, "You're getting ready to age out." So, this is back when uh, the age cutoff was 29. So, you had to be 28 to compete at state so that you wouldn't be older than 29 to compete at the Miss division at Miss United States. Because apparently, if you're not married after 29, I guess you just like fall off a cliff. Who knew?
Is that the thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess.
okay.
And so, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm waking up and it's like, one day I'm aging out of pageantry and modeling and all this stuff. Um, Having a state title and winning a state title was just an important goal for me. I'd competed at the Miss Arizona pageant when I was in college and I placed second runner up. Um, so knowing that was a goal of mine to win a state title, I was like, what do I need to do to buckle down and get serious? And so I hired a pageant coach. Um, and I was the old lady. I was the oldest contestant at in the Miss division that year at Miss Nevada. And I was already done with school. I was already a business owner. I was working at a law firm. Like, I was not your stereotypical, like, 20-year-old in college competing.
Yeah.
And I was the shortest contestant, which is in pageantry is a big deal. And
Yeah.
it's not in a good way.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, what do I need to do? How am I going to like double down on my strengths? And I worked with this pageant coach and we really just focused in on interview. So interview is the first time that the judges meet you. It's before like the show, the pageant that night. It's before the show. And it's worth 25% of your score. If you can, so the strategy was nail interview and really get them to like you and be excited about you as a contestant. So that way when you come out on stage that night, the next time they're going to see you is to judge you is going to be swimwear.
Mm.
Usually at the state level, right? Everyone's going to be in shape. Everyone's been working hard to prepare. So what is it about you that's going to stand out? And hopefully it's that you had a really memorable interview and that they felt like she's great. She's working hard. She's going to be a good representative. Like, I like her. And then you come out and you're great in swimsuit and you're great in evening gown and you nail your onstage question. Mathematically, you should be the winner.
Yeah.
So that was our strategy. And it was just like it was now or never because I was like, I can't compete again. So
Yeah.
I'm either going to win it or not. And it's like God's plan for me or not. Um, and it was incredible. We packed the audience with like I had over 60 of like my friends and family there in person in the audience. And again, it was like part of our strategy, right? Like we were just like every time I come out on stage, we need like an eruption from like the right side of the auditory. So they had like
Yeah.
my headshot on paint sticks. Everyone was drinking. It was like rambunctious.
Sounds like fun.
It was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting you say that the idea was like, hey, get to know you, get to like you, because it's kind of like pitching in a lot of ways, right? As part of the veteran fund, I'm sure you hear a lot of pitches. A friend of mine runs Moonshots Capital, Craig, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, Craig, when the door closes and you and Kelly are, talking about what's going on, what are the things that you guys talk about? Because entrepreneurs always want to know this. It's like, what's behind the secret door of investors?" And he said, a couple things. One, you, do we like this person? Because we're going to be working with them for a long time. Are they competent and can they execute? Right? He said, but don't forget number one. And I was just thinking about your story for the pageant. What an important lesson in life, just in general, right? Because you won their hearts and they gave them confidence in you. And then the rest was kind of like to use your cupcake, icing on the cupcake, right? It was just like extra, but you had already kind of won in that first round. So yeah, that's amazing. What your pageant coach, was that was this a strategy he or she had used before?
Um, so this particular pageant coach, it's this guy named Bill Alberson. He had coached two back-to-back Miss Americas. Like he was like highly sought after at the time, and he actually rejected me at first because he was like, "You're too small." He's like, your face is okay. He was like, "But like you're just too small." Like
Yeah.
he was like, I don't see who you're gonna win." And I like begged him. I was like, "Please, like take me on. Like I only have one chance. I have one chance to win this, and like I need like the best help that I can get."
Yeah.
And he's the one that came up with the strategy because he was like, "You're not going to wow them from a stage level." He was like,
Mhm.
"I wish you were like 5'10." He's like, "If you were 5'10", he was like, "we'd be talking about a different system." He's like, and
Yeah.
he was like,
Yeah.
he's like, he was like, "The only thing you have going for you is that hopefully you're going to nail interview
Yeah.
and then get like eights and nines in swimsuit and evening gown."
Well, I mean, the trophies behind you tell
Yeah.
the story, right? I mean, you did it. Um, that's amazing. Your When you went into the veteran fund, and I talked to Mike a little bit about this. In fact, I have a group of guys that I talk to. They all know you, and they all say hello. Kevin, who has the mission to spread the smiles, and that group of guys, um, they were saying, yeah, Lisa is a firecracker. There is no stopping her when she wants to do something. And that is kind of your story in the Veteran Fund. So, how did you get introduced to the Veteran Fund, and then you became a general partner of the Veteran Fund? But I don't think that was the initial plan. How did that all transpire?
So the veteran fund, I knew Justin out of all the guys first. Justin and I had been connected previously. Um, he just hit me up one day out of the blue, obviously years ago, and he said, "Hey, I've partnered with some friends of mine, and we have created this fund that we're going to be utilizing to invest into companies led by veterans.
Mm,
Can we chat with you about it? Like, would love to just like kind of pick your brain on thoughts on it as an entrepreneur and founder, and can we hop on a Zoom? And I'd love for you to meet my partners, my business partners." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we get on a Zoom, and it's Justin, Mike, and Ryan. And they were just great. Like I said, I already knew Justin, already loved Justin, but like Mike and Ryan, just immediate, like authentic, real. Um, and I, one, was not only impressed with their backgrounds, but also just the conviction with what they're building, right? I
mm,
was like, I have to be part of this. And from a personal investment standpoint, I had angel invested. I still do very little now, but at that point, I had angel invested probably for about 7 years. And I wanted to get into venture in a meaningful way as an LP. And I had been talking to a couple different firms. And it was just kind of ended up being like divine timing. So 2 weeks before Justin hit me up out of the blue, I was in Park City, um, chatting with a fund that I was strongly considering joining and investing in. And I remember I'd spent like 2 days with them. Um, it was 8 of their board members, and they were all, kind of older Goldman guys, kind of your stereotypical what you would think of with VC.
yeah.
And I remember flying back to Vegas from that trip in Park City, and I was with my assistant, and I just looked at her and I was like, maybe that's venture. Like, because I don't know, right? And
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like, maybe that's venture. And I wasn't like excited about it, but I was kind of like, well, maybe I just don't know enough yet, right? I
Mm,
haven't experienced enough yet. And I was like, okay. 2 weeks later, right? I have this 30-minute Zoom meeting with Mike, Ryan, and Justin. And I was like so fired up. I was so excited. I was so excited about them and what they were building. and like the vision they had. And I was like, I'm in. Like 100% I'm an LP. Send me the docs. Like I'm in.
Let's go. Wire transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just that like black and white difference,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Of like the team and what they're building and why they're building it. And the fact that you can either leave a conversation kind of like, like that was okay,
Yeah.
and versus like you're so pumped, you're so excited to be part of it, and you feel so honored that like you're going to get to work alongside them. So I called Justin back like 2 days later, and I'm like, "What is it going to take for me to be a GP?" And he was like, he's like, "It's really not how it works." He was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
why do you ask?" And he was just
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Look, I know I want to get. I've been wanting to get into venture in a meaningful way, and short of starting my own fund, which sounds like a massive lift. Um, what I'd love to do is come in alongside you guys. Um, I know that I can bring other LPs. I know that I can be a value add to this team. I know I can help our portfolio companies with my experience as a founder. And I'm not buying the model, the venture model that this other fund told me about with the whole, hey, we can let 99% of the portfolio die because the 1% will return.
Mm.
As a founder, like I know I've done everything I can on certain days to, you know, keep the company from going under, and we've been able to succeed. So like having that experience, I know what it's like. I want to help our founders. He was just like, "Oh my god." He was like, "You're not gonna let this go, are you?"
It's like, do you know my story?
I was like, "Let's get the guys together." I was like, "Let's talk about it in person," you know?
Yeah.
And so I flew to San Diego, and, at the time, Mike was still living there, Justin lives there, Brian flew down, and we all met up together in person in San Diego and worked out a deal.
You made him an offer they couldn't refuse, huh? Uh,
No, they're
amazing.
amazing. I mean, obviously, you know them. They're
Yeah.
so awesome. And I feel really grateful to not only get to work alongside them, but just that I also get to learn from them.
Yeah.
So
There's maybe it's just getting older in life, or I'm not really sure what it is, but who I work with is probably one of the most important things in the do I want to do this category. It's like, okay, if I'm not going to enjoy the people I hang around, likelihood of doing this is very, very low. So I can see how it was an easy choice on both sides, actually, for them and for you, to say, hey, this is a good match. And the Veteran Fund is doing amazing things, and the investments you guys have made in veterans, just I have a heart for that community. I'm sure you do, just because both of our dads were, are service members. And I've just seen the incredible work that veterans can do outside of the military environment. I mean, it's just absolutely, amazing to watch these companies kind of grow, and the leadership that comes from them, and it really does come from being a veteran. So, super excited about all the work that the Veteran Fund is doing, and excited that they were smart enough to say, yeah, let's have Lisa join the team.
no, they're so great. Yeah, I'm just so grateful. And to your point, not only the people, right, but it's like the type of work, the fact that it's so mission driven, and that every person is on board. Right. It's an immediate values alignment, even with like LPs, right? With folks we bring on, not only on the founder side, but on the investment side, with investors. Like there has to be a values alignment there because the investment thesis is so narrow, right? You really
Yeah, just on the value side, it's interesting because this is a conversation that people usually don't talk about. It's like, they say, a venture fund or a private equity, it's like, check size, percentage of the deal, there's a criteria. And I hear less of that from the veteran fund. I mean, there is a thesis and, kind of a range, but even if all of that matches up and it sounds like the values are not aligned, it's kind of like a no-go, from that team. And I think that's such an amazing part of that, because it's like at the end of the day, like if your values aren't in line, it's gonna not go the right way anyway.
Exactly right. Yeah. And you've seen it in business too, right? If you have someone who is the leader of a team, who there's loose morals, loose ethics, they only want to do the right thing half the time and only when it makes money, and it's like this fluid thing. The company doesn't stick around. There's no longevity to it, right? You're gonna have massive turnover, reputational. I mean, there's so many negatives that are part of it, and it's like, how can some people not see that and
Yeah.
not place a higher value on, is there a values alignment in relation to who's on board, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. My one of my investors, he does multiple investments. He's in London, and he visited a company in Austin. And the CEO, the first thing he did was take him to his kitchen, and he talked about all the food that they have and how he makes sure. And he was so proud of this kitchen for his employees and the food that they stock, and they go out of their way to make sure that it's nutritious and that everyone has access to it. And the rest of the he's like, that was it. That's really all I needed to know about the CEO. Obviously went on and did diligence, but he was a yes at, this guy cares about his people and cares about the outcomes of his people. And value alignment for him, that was super important. So yeah, good people meet good people, so love that and love that the veteran fund is, that's a part of the, part of the mission, part of the core thesis of you guys. So Lisa, we'll end with, you have done so many things well. um, what would you say is the piece of guidance that you give to people when you're speaking? And I know you do a ton of speaking. People always try to say, "Oh, boil it down to one thing," and I don't know if there's ever just one thing, but there has been some secrets that you've learned along the way. What might be one you want to share with people?
It's a quote my parents told me growing up, and it just has still ring true my entire life. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I think, you can be, there's always going to be a situation where maybe you're not the most experienced, or you're not, the standout favorite, or you're whatever it is, like you have some sort of perceived drawback. And that's just life. That's how it's going to be. So the question is, how else do you show up? Like, how can you show up? And at the very least, if you can show up through your work ethic, that's one of the best ways to just let people know, like, you're there and you're willing to work. And I think only success can come from that.
Amazing. I love that. You had some great parents with some great quotes and raised amazing individuals. So, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to say, I think if I stop this,